Hi, everyone. Welcome to Forte Connect. This week, our topic is, should digital transformation be a priority or still be a priority in 2020? So many organizations have obviously shifted to more of a maintenance mode, and often that comes at the expense of innovation. So we're wondering today, it'll be interesting to get your thoughts on innovation versus stability as we begin to see some businesses reopen. So our guest today is Amit Ainapure. Amit is the Director of Program Management at TIAA, which is a financial services company. And he'll be a great guest today because he's been filming a series of videos on digital transformation. So I'm looking to get Amit's thoughts. But first, the regulars from our team. We have CJ Montano, our partner and managing director at Forte Group. Hey, CJ.
Hi, everyone.
And Kirsten Lang, senior account executive for strategic partnerships. Hi, Kirsten.
Hello. Hi.
So Amit, we'll start with you. We mentioned the video. You've been recording these series of videos from home, like many of us, like we are. And one of your topics was digital transformation. So what advice would you give to organizations at the moment who are maybe in the middle of a transformation or considering one? Is 2020 still the year to do that?
Yeah. Hey, Steve, thanks for having me on this forum. So yeah, digital transformation has been as a keyword around for a long time across many different organizations. Typically Fortune 100 companies, they pick this up through Gartner and through many of other consulting firms. But I think in 2020, digital transformation is going to have a very different meaning to it. Earlier, it was supposed to be a thought process, a way of thinking through on how you could sustain and continue your business. But with the 2020 and ongoing pandemic, I think digital transformation is now going to be thought of as a must-have in order for them to connect with their employees, to connect with their customers. So I think in 2020, if there was a single year that was considered to be a year of digital transformation, I think 2020 would be it.
CJ, anything to add to that? Do you think digital transformation is a priority for this year, or how does it change?
It's interesting, and thank you for asking. Amit, I watched a bunch of your videos online on LinkedIn. If you haven't watched them, you should go watch them. They're very, very interesting. One of the differentiators, I think, or the differences that Amit pointed out that I would sort of call attention to is digital transformation doesn't necessarily have to be about innovation. It could be about the digital transformation of how you operate your current core business or even the fringes around your core business. And so, yes, I think digital transformation is as valid as ever, if not even more so. How it's tied to innovation and the priority of innovating or pivoting or disrupting, maybe that changes a little bit, although I'm not sure based on sort of the company culture, what you want to do. But I think when it comes to digital transformation and the value you can achieve just through the automation of parts, to owning your own product, to understanding sort of how to better service your client through digital channels, is just a new way of life that predated the pandemic. And I think with the pandemic and the quarantine ongoing, I think that servicing your clients adds new challenges to it, in which digital transformation just becomes more relevant. So I think of digital transformation is tough sometimes because a lot of people have a very specific definition of it. Some people, it's more of a sort of a state of being in the company and how you rely on your digital assets. So I think it's very relevant, and being an organization that helps with custom software development, business agility through technology, digital transformation is always occurring with our clients.
I'm interested to hear, as we're beginning to slowly reopen, many businesses and organizational leaders and workers are thinking about what the new office and work structure will look like. What are your thoughts, and how do you think the effect of the last 3 months will be moving forward this year and into next?
No, thanks. That's a great question, Kirsten. I think as all companies and states and other businesses, small and large, they are all trying to do one thing. They're trying to open gradually. What that will mean is that they'll start to have certain number of employees in an office space, and that they can still safely practice social distancing. What will that also mean is that even though some people might be in an office setting or an office environment or commuting to and from an office, there will be large swaths of other employees, their collaborators, who will still be remote. So now you will be in a new kind of interesting fashion where you are still commuting, you're still using the same devices and the techniques that you were using at home, you're just using in a different space. So that's one thing that I think that will continue to happen for the rest of this year. What I'm looking for this, I don't know if this will happen or not, but I'm looking to getting all of the newness of people using these technologies like Zoom, that thing that we are using right now. How do you collaborate and how do you communicate over a virtual setting? I think those are the types of things that people are going to get more comfortable with. And honestly, I will not be even surprised if the company, organizations, HR start to come up with training material on how to be presentable. How should you have an executive presence if you are on a virtual meeting? What are the key tips and tricks on communicating? How do you control your ums and ahs when you're speaking to somebody through a medium that is other than physical? So I think I see a lot of those types of things that previously may not have thought of coming into the employee space, where I think virtually connecting with people is here to stay. Whether you are in your own home or whether you are in a space that is typically sponsored by the employer you work for, it shouldn't matter to you. You will still end up using the same tools.
Thank you. That's really insightful. I appreciate you sharing that. CJ, so we've heard it come from you several times, outcomes versus output. So maybe a little bit of a mantra for you. Do you think that this experience will change how managers and organizations measure productivity and success?
I hope so. The first thing I wanted to comment on something Amit said there, because again, just I'm going to give you a lot of sort of reference to his videos. They were quite interesting videos, but one of the things he mentioned in the video was trust your employees. And I think that this becomes one of those times where we were all thrown into this quarantine and stay at home and remote working space, and Zoom and all of these brand new tools that we had to come accustomed to using and collaborate on. It's amazing how when sometimes you don't have a plan and everyone's forced to think creatively and collaboratively, and you just have to trust that, how much actually just occurs. And I'm in awe at how easy the transition was. Obviously, a lot of that has to do with digital transformation that's been happening for years generally in the industry, but just how people adapt so well when you just trust that they will. Regarding your specific question, because I'll answer it. Yes, outcomes versus output, right? I think that one of the things that goes along with trusting your employees is giving them a goal and giving them vision, because it's a lot easier to quote unquote trust or make somebody accountable or responsible to something when they have an understanding of what they're trying to accomplish and why they're trying to accomplish it, which is very much what an outcome is, right? It doesn't dictate how, it doesn't dictate the process, it doesn't require micromanagement. It requires very clear definition and maybe some KPIs that can help you understand whether you track properly. But ultimately, that's what an outcome is. And it's sort of evil twin brother, the output, right? So a lot of people confuse those two things. And the output itself can be, you could be going very, very, very quickly and building a lot of things and transforming a lot of things, and they could be the wrong things. And we call this sort of in Scrum, moving tickets from column to column. That doesn't necessarily equal value. It doesn't equal an outcome that you're looking for. It's just movement of task and it's sort of usage of a person's time. So output can lead to good outcomes, but it doesn't necessarily mean it will. Whereby outcome is an outcome. It's tied strictly to value and a goal statement. And as we go more remote and we have less ability to manage in traditional ways, we're sort of forced to think, how do we allow people to do the things they need to do, to trust them, but still align them towards the direction that the company wants to go? And I think goals, value, outcomes are the answer to that.
Yeah, and if I can add to that on what CJ is saying, first thing about change, right? This is like a textbook example where it is always harder to talk about change. People are freaking out about change when you discuss in meetings and you have your vision charts up top. But as soon as you execute the change itself, people seem to calm down, they pick up and they move on. And that's exactly what we saw. If we had talked about the upcoming pandemic, if this was a
Yes.
planned event, it would have been chaotic. It would have been a mess. The fact that nobody had time to plan for it and communicate about it, it was that much more easier for us to go with the flow and take on. The second point, CJ, you're making is right on the point, right? I believe that the reason why people understand that outcomes are important or output, but they still have a challenge with it, is because in our daily lives, we don't think about outcomes. We only think about outputs. I mean, think about this. I have an 11-year-old son at my home, right? I have, for the life of me, never told him what the outcome of taking the trash out is. I've always focused on the output. You got to take out the trash. And then he'll do it. Sometimes I'll have to do a little bit more coaxing. But that's what I was thinking about to it myself, saying if we were to think about our personal life in terms of an outcome perspective and not just output. Output is easy. Everybody gets it. We need to know and we can point to a task, and that's what needs to get done. But if you take a little bit of a time and think through about what is that you're asking, why are you asking? Why am I asking my son to take out the trash? I think that makes it a little bit more easier. Now, he may or may not do the task, but at least my way of sharing information with him, showing him a bigger picture of, the hygiene and all around it, I hope to God that makes it more built into him, lets him out to be a longer lasting habit. So I don't have to ask him to do the exact same thing week over week over week, right?
I love it.
I look forward to seeing that trash taking PowerPoint presentation.
The value proposition is intrinsically motivating to take out the trash.
So Amit, you advise various organizations, and one of the things you advise them on is digital transformation. So obviously, what advice would you give to an organization might depend upon the industry they're in and a number of other factors. But is there any general advice that you can share for companies right now that maybe are a little bit behind the curve and are looking to do something now?
Yeah, no, that's a important question and a tricky question as such, Steve. So it is very interesting for any organization to understand what digital transformation means to them internally. By way of example, there has been an organization that I've worked with. When they think about digital transformation, they started out thinking in terms of, redefining their entire business model. How might they revamp their entire workforce to now create a new value proposition that the customers didn't necessarily understand? What it turned out to be, the real digital transformation they ended up doing, which was again considered innovative as well, is for putting a small barcode on their form. They decided that the small transformation allowed them to not only process the form automatically, removing the entire human component, but it also allowed them that higher degree of traceability, that all of a sudden, that instead of communicating with their customers saying, hey, I received your forms and I have no idea what they are, to now telling them, giving them a pizza tracker type of statusing, saying, hey, your form is scanned from point 1 to point 2. Now you're in the 4th step of a 5-step process. That smaller type of transformation is also considered digital transformation. And some organizations may not think of those small wins when they might be thinking of digital transformation. My first advice to them is look at across your organization. Look at some of the business processes that you may have resigned to, or you may have accepted for what they are. Try to look at it from a perspective of what is the lead time? How much value can you deliver to your customer, and can you deliver it fast enough? And if you look at and list out those processes, I would imagine that they'll start getting a blueprint of a beginning of what will be a successful digital transformation for them.
So kind of wanted to piggyback off of what Amit was saying there, but CJ, you work with all sorts of organizational leaders and they come in different categories. Is there any kind of trend you're seeing with some of the advice maybe that you're giving them at the moment? Like, what can we do right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place, honestly, with some of the clients. Some are just doubling down and really kind of sticking true to their roadmap and saying, this is this too shall pass, and it's a short enough time frame that we want to stay true to our goal statements and, you know, our delivery dates and things like that. Other organizations have completely said, wow, not only were we not ready for this, we see this as the new normal, and we have to pivot in terms of how we operate and how we rely on technology and things like that. So I'm a pragmatist. So largely when it comes to business agility, I think always be sort of prepared in that you keep a conversation alive. There's a leader in the organization who is very comfortable with change, and that is often referred to as a change agent, and somebody who can very easily adapt to things as they go. And then have something sort of on your docket, your regular cadence, which is a normal sort of agile ideology, to really just revisit the state of things and where you're at and what you want to achieve. Where you're gonna, where your goal begins and where your goal ends is often changing over time. It doesn't necessarily change as significantly as people think, but it changes enough to disrupt you and put you at risk. And so oftentimes it's just not even frequent, just periodic conversations about the state of your business, what you want to achieve, and how that is changing over time, that allows you to at least be prepared in some way for events that occur that you're gonna have to manage. And then tie your digital transformation off of that. This is part of who we want to be. These are the things that are likely to happen, or we may not even be ready to prepare for. But we're talking about those things, and so when that day finally comes and you have to shift priority, it's not like you're talking about it for the first time, because there's a hidden risk there, which is just confidence. If you've never talked about something and then you're forced to make a decision about that thing, it's very, very hard to make that decision with any level of confidence. But if it's something that you're constantly talking about through a normal cadence channel, then you'll be more comfortable when time comes to make that decision. So just principally speaking, whether it's digital transformation or technology or your business, those are the things that we keep true to us. And I would recommend to all of my clients to say, keep that roadmap, keep revisiting the priorities, and make sure that conversation is alive so that there's confidence in your decisions.
Amit, anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great point. One other thing I'd like to talk about, and as an advice to organizations, is that digital transformations, they don't have to be costly. I know many organizations, when they think of digital transformation, or if they go out and hire one of these big name consultants, they might get a sticker shock. I would urge them to think inward. The best stewards of what should be and how much of digital transformation you want to adopt is the organization themselves. I would advise them to seek out your subject matter experts who are open to change, identify those change agents that already exist in your organization, and try to find out around what is the right balance for you to take the first few steps. Now, typically when people think roadmap and they think vision, they have this grand vision of 3 to 5 years, and that's great. Vision is great to have. That's how you can make progress. But at the same time, when time comes to execute, take a look at smaller chunks. Take a look at focusing on the next few weeks in front of you, instead of trying to quantify the entire roadmap and then calling it too costly and not doing it. I think that would be one other thing that organizations would look at. And every dime that you spend on your digital organization, be very almost adamant and require some return on investment metrics as part of it. So if you are changing a process from process A to process B, why did you do it? Be extremely intentful of that change, and then measure everything so you can prove to yourself as well as to your senior leadership that for every dollar you spend in a transformation, you are getting at least $1, or if not more, back from it.
Thanks, Amit. That was some good insights from all of us. So today's topic we'll wrap up. Thanks for your time, Amit. Really appreciate you joining us. Our topic today, of course, was, should digital transformation still be a priority for 2020? Appreciate your insights on that. Lastly, Amit, is there anywhere we should send people? We referenced the videos that are on your LinkedIn page. We can link to that if you like in the comments section. Anywhere else that you like to send people?
I think that's more than plenty, Steve. Thanks for your guys' help and putting some more spotlight on those videos. I think that's more than I could ask for. Let's stay in touch and see if we can have more, discussions like this. I believe I saw one of your Forte Connect texts with Nilesh Patel. If anything, getting out with like-minded people, staying in touch with them, like CJ mentioned, even if there is no plan, if you have a habit of connecting, I think will always lead to something much more bigger and better.
Totally agree. And hopefully we can see you in person soon.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you have any topic suggestions for this Forte Connect series, you can reach out to us at news@fortegroup.com. That's FORTEGRP.com. If you found this video valuable, consider liking, subscribing, and you can find all of our videos on our website, fortegroup.com. Kirsten, thanks for joining us. CJ, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. All right, everyone, take care.